Hey guys, welcome. I'm sitting on a Sunday afternoon getting ready for devotions for the week, and I hope that these are a blessing to you. We're talking about seeing life through the eyes of our hearts. You know, when our hearts are open and our spiritual eyes are open, we tend to see things and life and worldview completely differently. The course of last week, we've spoken about people who walk living life through the eyes of their hearts, with their eyes of the hearts open, are people who have nothing to prove, other than to Satan, of course. But we have nothing to prove to people. We have nothing to prove to God. We just have nothing to prove at all other than to the enemy. And we talked about that. And then we spoke about the fact that we have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. And I want to keep on talking about that today. But before we look at nothing to lose, I want to suggest before we talk about nothing to lose, let's talk about nothing to hide. Nothing to hide. We said this last time, that so many of us live life hoping that we're never going to be found out. We hide things in our lives, not knowing that God sees everything. There's nothing you can hide from Him. We said He's never surprised by what He sees. He's seen it all and a whole lot more. But there are some things that we need to understand about this nothing to hide thing. I want to suggest to you the relief that comes to you when you get honest with God. You realize you can't hide anything from Him. He sees everything. He knows everything. He knows your actions. He knows your thoughts behind those actions. He knows it all. So stop trying to hide anything from God. But the fact is that when we get real with God, something happens in our own souls. David had this experience where he was miserable as sin, literally miserable as his sin made him. He was hiding things from people. He tried to hide this thing with Bathsheba. He tried so hard to rationalize it and to work his way through it in the hopes that nobody would see. Well, not many people did see, but God saw. And the grief in his own heart, the guilty conscience he carried, was incredible. I want to read to you from Psalm 32, and this is what David says, and he says it so well. He says, "Blessed is he whose transgressions are forgiven, whose sins are covered. Blessed is the man whose sin the Lord does not count against him, and whose spirit is found no deceit." First of all, he talks about the state of blessedness. Blessedness is, happiness is just another word for blessedness. Joy is just another word for being blessed. He says, and there is true joy found in being honest with God and finding forgiveness from Him. Then he describes his dilemma of how he felt. He says this, "Man, when I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groanings all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. Then," I love that word, "but then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin." What a blessed state to be in, to have nothing to hide. You see, when we come to God with nothing to hide, the relationship is perfect in our human situation. When we come to God and confess our sin, not trying to hide it or justify it or pretending that it's not there, but when we come and we confess our sin to God, the state that David spoke about right here can be yours. Can be yours. Get right with God. Keep short accounts with Him. Confess your sin to Him and then experience the freedom that comes with that, where you're able to express yourself with joy that you've never spoken of before. You'll begin to express life through a completely different scenario, and life returns to where it should be. I urge you, in the simplicity of this little devotion today, maybe just to say, Lord, there's some stuff we need to talk about. Lord, there's some stuff I've been hiding from you, knowing full well that that's a stupid thing to do because you see it all. But Lord, I need to come right with you today. And I want to confess maybe a bad attitude or a bad relationship or a bad event or just a bad motive. I want to confess my greed to you, my pride to you. Lord, I just want to get right with you. And that beautiful psalm that says, as the deer pants for the water, so my soul will long after you. While our souls are full of sin and sin sickness, nobody's panting after anything. But when we do, and that sin is relieved and we are forgiven, and we walk out of wherever we've been with God, a newness of life completes this journey. I really hope and pray I'm going to be doing the same thing to make sure that we keep short accounts with Him and make sure that confession is good because it's good for us. God knows it all anyway, so confess it and watch what it does for you. Have a good day. Bye.